Hello to the listeners of Good Art, Bad Artist. This time we will be speaking to an illustrator, a comic artist. Recently, she's doing tattoo designs and sculpture as well. Very, very new at that. Like a few days pa lang.
Hindi pa yata pwedeng ilagay sa resume,
Oh,
but
hindi pa
yes.
pwede, yes. Ano pa lang siya, wala pa siya sa skill section, na sa interest section pa lang.
Yes.
So, she's an artist that I wanted to talk to. I like her art in its they're not necessarily complicated in terms of technicalities. Most of them are just four colors, three colors, and so there's a simplicity to it, but under that simplicity is so much. They are works that are emotionally charged, if based on my impression, of course. Among the Filipino artists today, maybe I'm being feelingero, but I feel like our idea of what's a cool thing to draw kind of get along well. And maybe that's, again, this is so presumptuous of me. She might leave the hall after this sentence. But I imagine, in Spotify, if you view an artist, there will be recommended artists at the bottom. I would like to imagine that if we are on Spotify, when you open her art, maybe mine would be among the similar artists or vice versa. And this is just me being feeling, because she's obviously so much better than me, so much more
Oy.
tactical and dynamic. Guys, we have here Jamie. Hello, Jamie.
Hi everyone. Pero totoo yun. I really think na, I mean, in a non-Spotify way, I think magka-wavelength kasi tayo. Secretly.
Yeah.
Even if I've always been shy to make you chika. So I'm actually like, yes!
Yeah.
Pwede tayo mag-usap ngayon.
Can I just say, this art of yours, you have a sticker of this. For
Yeah.
for 2 years, it's been on my laptop, and I just had to remove it recently kasi brown na siya. Nandito siya sa may near the trackpad. So,
That means so much to me. Feeling ko talaga, yung hierarchy of sticker placements, parang laptop, talaga medyo mataas yun. So, sobrang shit.
yeah. Sticker positioning is political.
Oo parang pag nakita mong, ay, nasa ano lang pala ako, nasa Tumblr lang ako.
Oo, nasa likod lang. Or alam mo yung they put your sticker pero they put another one over it.
Excuse me.
Oh, how dare you? I really wanted to buy your prints kasi medyo namamahalan pa ako at this time.
Ito ba si InPrint? Okay Okay, I know that we're on the record now, pero tatagalugin ko na lang para just in case meron kang international listeners. Kasi gusto ko yung international listeners bumili. International viewers, I really, I have a print store and InPrint, please visit it. Pero mga kababayan, masyadong mahal ang InPrint.
Yeah.
Kasi ano talaga sila, like, it's really made for, I opened it so that people overseas can buy it. Pero I really want to be able to create high quality prints by myself na wala nang middleman like an InPrint. So hopefully.
I would like to cite some other artists na I'm in my mind. I would, again, our similar artists on Spotify, and tell me how you feel about these. No, one is, how do you feel about Jillian Tamaki?
Yeah. Jillian Tamaki is super, like, one of my core inspirations talaga. In a way na, I don't know if you're like this when it comes to like your inspirations, na parang dahil sa sobrang idol mo sila, or because they're so close almost to the aesthetic that you want. Not even literally in like the mark making, but in like the things they evoke.
The feel.
Like I have to distance myself from her work sometimes.
Yeah.
So for example, ayun nga, like I was saying to you off record kanina, that I really want to work on a young adult. I want to work on a young adult comic, and so I finally got the guts to read her work na this one summer.
Oh,
and
man. fucking amazing.
It took me so much like effort. Na parang ilang years na siya like since it came out. And then when I finally picked it up, I was like, shit. Like now that I've seen what she did, alam mo yun, it's so close to what I want to be able to do. Pero now I know that I have to find my own way. Because I don't want to be a copy of Jillian, even if she is obviously, I owe so much of like the things that you see in my work to what she
I hope
has
you
been.
didn't
So,
take it. I hope you didn't take it na. I'm not saying your work is similar to her, but I see the, the being informed by it. Ayon. And for example, the way you draw people are very soft and wavy, and they don't necessarily feel strongly tangible. Like there's a smoky effect to how you draw people. And another one, how do you feel? You know Bunny Luz locally?
Yeah, I love Bunny.
Yeah. Bunny Luz.
Ka-South friend.
Yeah. We're South sisters. I'm in Laguna, so it's South as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So,
what about Bunny?
yun nga, parang there's energy.
I love the
There's
work.
a softness to it then.
Oo. Sa Spotify radio nga tayong magkakasama.
In your work, ayun nga, as I said in the intro, it can be described, a lot of it, as emotionally charged. And it has a feeling, it registers that you don't necessarily target the superficial appeal, but more on how it would pluck into the feelings of the viewer, the emotions of the reader. For example, you have works like this that are like, I don't know, not to insult you, but like 5-minute drawings, more or less. And so, but to you, it's important enough to post. So am I right in thinking na the emotional and the, not visually, but the internally or cognitively abstract is something that appeals to you more, that you gravitate towards to more as a creator?
Actually, there's an extremely boring and practical answer to all of that. If you go through like my timeline, I mean, wala na yung like kind of my older, more painterly style works dyan sa Instagram, but my work got more and more simple. And like you said, like it was probably a 5-minute drawing, and that's true. And yes, like to some extent, I feel like there are some emotions, or there are some feelings, some moods that I can convey very, very, very quickly, and that's something that I value. But that wasn't an accident. It's more of that in the past maybe 5 or 7 years, I've been really struggling with the physical aspect of art making. So I have arthritis. Like that was like diagnosed around 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and it makes it really, really hard for me to draw for long periods of time. And then to add to that, sobrang easily distractible pa ako as a person. There are artists who, they work on a painting for weeks, and masaya pa rin yun from start to finish. For me, parang, umay kagad. So, honestly, like, apart from, like, one big part of, like, the skills that I'm really trying to sharpen is how efficient can I be in my mark making, in my art making, in a way na that doesn't sacrifice quality, or that doesn't sacrifice na, alam mo yun, that emotion, without destroying my body in the process. So, yeah.
I get that. I get the idea na your work or somebody's work would be informed also by the physical condition and by the amount of effort or labor that they're willing to make. Because honestly, it's the same for me na, okay, there's a style there. People are like, oh, the way Electromilk draws. But girl, oh my God, don't cancel me, you guys. But I'm fucking lazy. Fucking lazy. If the work will not be done in 30 minutes, I will not do it anymore. I'll just do it another way. I hate the idea na, okay, time to get back to this drawing that I was doing since 3 days ago. No, and I'm not sure if the habit is designed to fit the style I want, or
Mm.
the style I want is because of my willingness to exert an effort. And I think it's the second one.
Hey, I know that we as a people we like to be self-deprecating, but the fact that we make art in the first place, hindi naman tayo inherently tamad. But I don't know who said it, pero art is like the art that you make is a combination of what you're good at and what you're shit at, right?
Oh, I
So
love that.
so I'm good at like I like to think that I'm good at drawing forms, but I'm shit at
Mm.
drawing backgrounds. So if you look at my my stuff, it's like there isn't a single background there.
Uh-huh.
um yeah, so I will, so even if sometimes of course I will give time to myself to really practice the things that I am bad at. At the end of the day, I have to play up what I know I'm good at and what I enjoy in the art making process. Because
Gets
otherwise, bakit ko pa siya gagawin kung if it's something that I'm sticking to like the end of like a very busy like work week, tapos laspag na yung mga braso ko, and then I'm gonna be like painting away at something pa. So it's just kind of conserving energy, pero at the same time still fulfilling that inner desire to create.
I just want to say that again, and I wrote it down because I like it na the art that you do is informed by what you're good at and what you're shit at. I fucking love that. And that is so true. Like me naman, if with you it's backgrounds, me background and also coloring. So
Mhm.
people are like, oh, he's so minimalist with his colors. But it's more like, no, he doesn't know how to color. That is the key. That's
Parang ano
honestly
lang yan ay, wow, Jamie, lagi kang naka-black. Wow, that's so
ah,
chic. Girl, ayoko lang mag-isip
yeah,
ng color combination today.
gets
Kaya
yeah,
black
yeah.
lang.
I
Yeah.
know what you mean. Yeah, and I mean the idea that the art has to. I think we have romanticized too much the concept. Na this is my quick draw. This is my warm up sketch. This is the final work after 3 days. This is the outline. I mean that is of course a way to do it, but let's not forget artists like David Shrigley or Liana
Mm.
Fink. Na I
Mm.
mean New Yorker cartoonists. Na I mean art is not a competition of how much work you put into it.
Yeah.
I believe, personally ako, tell me your thoughts after. I believe na art is more of, not a competition, but what's a word for competition that is not competition? Exhibition of ideas.
It really that's so
Yeah.
hard to say because I feel like, for example, like yun nga, I really love like Shrigley type artwork na you can say was hastily done or it seems carelessly done.
Mm.
Pero yung skill pa rin niya, 'di ba, is in the conceptualization. And of course, it to an untrained eye, it seems easy. It seems na parang ginawa with her, like his left hand or something like that. Pero alam mong pinag-isipan lahat 'yun.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, so but on the counterpoint of that, I feel like there are artists na who manage to pull off yung where the medium or the execution is sobrang mabusise or it's so like alam mong they really want you to see na it was a difficult process, and
Mm.
the beauty still comes from that. And meron lang, and then I think those either polar opposites are great and beautiful, pero pag nagland ka somewhere in the middle, I think that's where it becomes kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Na parang wala ka na nga masyadong pinag-isipan. Tapos ang ginawa mo lang, ginalingan mo lang, tinagalan mo lang mag-drawing. Tapos parang
Hindi naman maganda yung execute. Yeah.
yung, so, so
Parang,
like, ma-balance mo naman. Pumili ka ng
girl,
na.
ano yan? The line there is, girl, pick a struggle. You can't struggle both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, not to like diss other people, pero I feel like at least when I'm like working on something, na parang okay, medyo wala tong pinagagalingan, sana gandahan ko naman yung execution, or oh, this is very emotive or something, then it's okay. I can give myself a bit of like leeway in terms of how technical it has to be.
Ayun nga, parang to me, I won't automatically look up to someone because they're doing something quote unquote difficult.
Yeah. You don't necessarily look up to someone because of how difficult the piece seems, right? Pero I think kasi, so when I was younger, that was like all that I had to base it off on. I feel like when you're younger, no one is really teaching you the conceptual part of art in like art class, right? Like no one is telling you about how to express. At least in my art class, it was like, let's draw spheres, let's combine colors. So let's render shading, ganyan. So very, your idea of art is how parang difficult was it to do that? Kasi titignan mo si kaklase mo na parang, fuck, ang hirap mag-shading ng sphere na ganun kagaling. Ang galing talaga niya. And then that's where your mind ends. Like, that's where your world ends in terms of your concept of good art. Or, fuck, sobrang kamukha ni Son Goku yung drawing niya, tas yung drawing ko ni Son Goku, hindi kamukha ni Son Goku.
Chichi yung kamukha.
So I don't blame it. So it's something I notice a lot in like younger artists na you can tell na they're trying to compensate almost for something by kind of overstuffing a piece with intricacies to flex like that difficulty level. Because because of the whole nature of social media and everything. And it's a very easy way to say na, oh, this piece is good. Kasi grabe, ang hirap niyan. Right? Pero I see what you mean. Like that's why like it doesn't appeal to me also because I guess it's not the playing field I will ever be able to compete in. Because I can never make difficult work because I will break my back before I do that. And so hindi ko na lang sila pinapansin. Parang mag-enjoy na lang kayo dyan while I rub tiger balm on myself.
What types of subject matters attract you? Or a more pageant version of the question is, what do you find to be beautiful?
This is gonna sound super sad, but I love pain, emotional like pain. Like I really gravitate towards like the sense to art, or music actually is the perfect like medium for this kind of sensation of like kind of picking at a wound. Alam mo yun, yung parang sugat na nga siya, tapos kinakamot mo pa kasi medyo masarap. And then like you're kind of thinking and like kind of ruminating on that, a painful experience or a painful memory in order to like exercise it. And I think that journey of like your experience of pain, your recollection of pain, and then the resolution or not resolution of that pain is something that I really, really love in the things that I consume. Consume is such a shitty word, but you know what I mean. Like
the thing is, pain is fascinating / interesting. Now you want to keep. I get what you mean about wanting to keep picking it. When alternative example. When a part of you is mabaho and it's not it's not the best feeling to smell it. But parang hindi siya nakakasawa to keep smelling that. Does that make sense, or am I just disgusting?
I'm neither gonna confirm nor deny, pero theoretically, I think I understand you, Shin. It's like watching a car crash, or parang there's something about that na hindi. Like, and of course, an extension of it is horror and stuff like that. So very emotional stuff. And then anything that is parang the almost that unpleasant / pleasant side of being able to feel. is
Yeah. That's what I
so
meant.
nakakagigil.
That's what I meant. Why are you throwing me under the bus with the stink and the smells?
Sige na nga. Okay, fine.
How about the more, kasi pain and drama is too abstract. How about more physical or more, more surface level things that you find beautiful or that you are obsessed with, ganon.
I think I really like things that explore the experiences of women, of young women. So like that relationship of growing up and the pain of being a woman and all of that. And attached to that is our relationship with our body. So it's something I think about a lot. So it's hard because I actually have a very weak stomach for gore. Like, so when it comes to movies, I aspire to be the kind of person who watches like body horror movies, but like after like a few minutes of it, like I kind of want to barf a little bit. So I'm still training myself to do it, but there's something about that genre that is so like interesting to me because every single second of every day, right? We're inside this shell, and there's you're either noticing it or not noticing it. And but the times when you're noticing your body is either very good, like yeah, I can have
Yeah.
orgasms, or very bad, like fuck, my joints hurt, right? So
Uh-huh.
like the physicality of being alive is something that I think about a lot.
About
And things that explore that is addicting.
the beautiful and grotesqueness of the body naman, you're talking more about the feelings that register. To me naman, when you look at your palm and you can never actually look at it enough kasi the lines there, the textures, like in terms of the body, that's what fascinates me about it na parang we just look at the body as the color of the skin and the shape.
Mm.
But then we're literally fucking grotesque. Like the pores, the small hairs. Like that's
Mm.
also very interesting. And I guess that's also what I like about your work is your field of interest is I'm a big fan of smaller stories. I'm a big fan of my favorite author. I don't know if you know him, is Raymond Carver, and his short
Mm.
stories are just couples having a problem, and at the end of the day they will make up, or kids na maglalayas or whatever. I like tiny real stories like that, and I kind of get that from your work a little bit. Do you agree that you prefer the microscopic and digging on that than, let's say, a story about a fantasy land?
I think the reason why my work is so grounded is because once again it's a lot of it's based on my limitations as a person. I think I'm very very new at making comics and making stories, and because of that it's like very immediate. I'm drawing from something very immediate from me. So I have a very small life. I don't think I've ever I don't have a dramatic life. I don't have a dramatic, I don't have a lot of stories to tell you about what my life was like. So my stories are inherently very small also. So
That's That's not necessarily a reason though, because some boring people write like, oh, this is like Naruto, but in the Philippines, in mga Datu or whatever. So I think you really like, wow, I'm really going against you on this. I think you also really just prefer it maybe, or kasi nga you can manage, you can manage telling that, parang ganun.
well, that's one thing, but I think Shin, I think the real reason, the real reason
Okay,
is
guys,
because
listen.
of eto na yun. The function kasi of comics in my life um was never really to take anyone on a journey. Like there are books like that, right? Now very let's go on a journey. I'll create a world for you. These are the characters, ganyan ganyan. So yeah, so the function of my comics. Okay, so chimes. The first time I've ever made comics was when I was, of course, like grade 1, grade 2. Tapos si Bernard Dabay, yung kaklase ko noon, siya lang din yung isa pang nagko-comics. Tapos pareho kaming nagdo-drawing, like simple comics lang. I was objectively a much better artist than him, as good as you can be at grade 1 or grade 2. Pero si Bernard Dabay, who is a doctor now, God bless his soul, may he stay safe. Like he was so funny. Like he was drawing stick figure comics. And ang mangyayari dyan, so parang, okay, parang good morning, ito na yung comics ko, ginawa ko kagabi, ito yung comics ko, tapos babasahin ng mga kaklase namin. And then, I could tell na parang yung mga real-time reaction ng mga kaklase ko, parang, uy, parang ganda naman ng pagka-drawing mo, Jamie. Period. End of sentence. Tapos yung kay Bernard Dabay, tatawa, tapos i-reference nila the next day. Tapos I was like, okay, I'm never drawing comics again in my life.
That's your villain origin story.
Yeah. So ayoko na. Parang as in, so grade 1 onwards, ayoko na mag-comics. Hindi talaga siya for me. So it wasn't, this is not my career path. So chimes again. Tapos, okay, so I became an angsty teenager dahil nga naging villain na ako. I had my Jokerification. And I was on LiveJournal. So when I was like around 12, like blogging was such a novel concept for me because of course I was a very emotional little kid. So I had my own little diaries, ganyan. But for the first time, I was now writing my diaries in public. And then my friends, and then some people who I didn't really know very well, yung mga kalaro ko lang sa Ragnarok, ganyan, they were reading my thoughts and they were reading about my emotions. And I wasn't creating worlds. I wasn't living an interesting life as a 9 to 12-year-old as I was on LiveJournal. But it was just all emotions. And then people seemed to be interested in it. And for me, I realized na sobrang rewarding nung feeling of getting things off of my chest in a public. I don't know why. I still need to figure out why. I mean, there are some people who get off on like flashing people in public, right? Pero for me, there is like a gratification of like just being like bearing my soul out to a random stranger and then being like, okay, good luck with that. Like enjoy these feelings. Okay, so LiveJournal era. Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say na, of course, this is cruel. It will sound cruel, but I love your openness. And I mean, of course, I don't celebrate na, oh, Jamie's going through shit. But I love the idea na you write about that, especially in this time where when people are so curated, even their honesty is curated on what's going to be funny online or what will be relatable. I love that there's still some like you who are just like, my day is shitty, this shitty day, and that's it. Anyway, sorry, LiveJournal.
So LiveJournal, I learned that, wow, I really like sharing my emotions with strangers. And then I went to Catholic school for high school. And then I will not be grateful for 99.9% of the things that I was taught in Catholic school. But the 0.1% is that we were always asked to write reflection papers. And
that's you thrive in that, I'm guessing.
Oh my God. Okay. So like I loved it. It was like, think about today and then look at this passage from the Bible and then write about it and then la 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 la. And I was like, bitch, I can do this all day.
You're already shaking na. Give me the bit.
Yes, I will talk about my life in relation to the, Abraham begat, ganyan. Sige. Like, there's always, because, as you can tell already, like you said on my Twitter, like, I enjoy talking about myself because I think I've always been very internal, and if I don't let it out, it gets kind of painful. So, kailangan ko siyang ilabas. Okay. So, unfortunately, I had to leave Catholic school and I had to stop writing reflection papers, and LiveJournal died. So suddenly I was lacking this outlet, right? So wala na akong way to randomly assault people with my emotions.
Wait, commercial question.
Yes.
During all these live journal days, reflection paper days in Catholic school, were you still drawing?
I was, but this was during the phase nga na my art. Okay, so hindi pa ganun ka dali makahanap ng artwork that I think is like the kind of art that we like to make now back then. So in my head, ang goal ko talaga was during that time, I wanted to be like a concept artist for a video game, or gusto ko maging artist for Magic the Gathering cards. Actually, like all of my comics, they all start out as written first. Like to a fault sometimes, right? I have to admit. Like that's why the art is almost like just sprinkled on top, because I think even if I'm not like trained in it, because I studied fine arts, like my main language is actually through words. So yeah, and then the universe conspired against me and then took LiveJournal and my reflection papers, and then wala na akong magawa. If you know what, feeling ko talaga siya, if someone was like, LiveJournal is back, I'll never make comics again. Anyway.
Yes. So,
all of it, if you read it through the lens of this is a diary entry, or this is someone who just kind of needed to share their emotions. Parang as in literally like kind of bloodletting, alam mo yun, pinapalabas mo lang talaga yung feelings. So that's why the stories have always been small, because the emotions are very contained. They're like, it wasn't there are people na I have a big emotion, so I will create a world around that to express that emotion, or to express that motif, or to express that theme. I don't think my work is at that level of maturity yet. I have to admit na parang it is really a very knee-jerk reaction na I am feeling an emotion very strongly right now. I'm gonna go write something down and then mash it up with artwork.
I don't think therapeutic is the best word, but it's really more on the idea that you are processing something, like the human being comes first before being the artist. To me, JB Cabatit right now has 3 comics. We have Examination, which fucking destroyed me. I didn't know what I was getting when I bought it. And then there's Cry Baby, which I think Examination destroyed me and left me devastated. Cry Baby impressed me na parang, wow, Jamie's really something. And then Disembodied kind of fucked me up again. So can you just give me a brief, like 2 sentence author's commentary on those 3? I would like to encourage our listeners to check out PenLab or jamiecabatit.com to read those comics because they are very short. Para it's more fun for you guys to listen to what Jamie is about to say.
Okay, guys, pause muna and then go read.
Pause the video, guys. Spoilers. No, okay.
Yeah.
Examination.
Examination was really for me about the kind of like the the destruction of my innocence, and like kind of the realization that I was not a grown-up. This is so hard. Like I'm not very good at explaining it because I feel
No
like
need to
the word.
go into the detail, but okay.
Yeah, but no, that was like really the theme that I was going through, and that was the emotion that I was going through. And I think I really want to clarify that that was not an autobiographical comic. I think a lot of people read it as such, and yeah, so it was really that feeling that it was exploring a very specific time in my life where I felt my trust in people to be like really just disregarded and destroyed for the first time.
When artists usually make comics that are like, let's say 10, 12 pages long, it will usually leave you hanging or it will feel rushed. And I guess it's because of the poetic structure of your writing and visual narrative that like examination in these very few pages will like haunt you or will like have a strong impact on you, and it's not even overtly violent, overtly hurtful for the reader, but you used metaphors, you had paneling tricks. Parang examination is so short and so small, and yet it already did so much and in such a graceful way.
It was short because it was me just screaming. It was really anger. That examination is purely anger. I think disembodied and crybaby is a bit like more parang the wound is kind of healing a bit more in those stories. Pero examination was really just the angriest. Somehow I captured that anger in a bottle, and that's what it was. And I didn't realize that it was leaving that effect on people because to me it was so natural. When I was reading it as it was done, I was like, okay, this is exactly how I feel. Parang alam mo yan, binasa ko siya, correct. This is aligned with how I feel. Okay, I'm gonna sell it to people. And then I remember like my first experience, I had like a pile of examination nasa office ako noon. And then my office mate was like, uy, pwedeng pabasa lang. And I was like, oh my God, it's a normie and they're gonna buy they're gonna read my comic. What am I gonna do?
God.
Pero parang, I didn't want to be rude kasi office mate ko yun. So parang, yeah, go ahead.
Holy shit. Oh, what happened?
So parang bigla na lang binabasa lang niya. Tapos ako parang nagtatrabaho lang doon. And then when I looked up, she was crying. And then,
God.
and I didn't know what to do. Kasi I didn't know that I had that power to make people feel like that. And we weren't close enough for me to really ask what had happened, like what did I trigger something, ganyan. But I was surprised nga that even if it was so short, even if it was very vague, it didn't really, I don't think, was it graphic? I mean, like, I guess it was very graphic.
No,
pero not explicit, alam mo yun, na parang it was like vaguely referring to something that happened, right? Ganun siya. And even then, it was very overwhelming for this person. And so sometimes it still happened like back then in like cons na people would pick it up to browse it. And I'd be like, I wish you wouldn't do that because I know what happens. Because people, and then yun nga, so once I started bringing it to cons, I would see that exact same reaction. Hindi naman sila iiyak, pero parang mapabad trip sila.
The non-graphicness of the dark aspect of it is kind of really what would fuck up the reader in a way na, kasi you would imagine it's not like, oh, this is a terrible thing, look at it. It's more like, ayun nga, I mean, the most terrifying terrain is always the mind of the person, di ba? So
Disembodied came next. So Disembodied was actually part of an exhibit at Studio Soup. I was invited by sila Ev and Cams. That was the first time na I think, apart from the fact that I think I had said all I wanted to say in terms of examination, that's why it was so short. But, another factor was, I don't know, Shin, if you're very disciplined when it comes to what you bring out in Comic-Con or Comic-Con. Pero ako, I'm usually like, next week na ba? Tapos parang, and then I'll start doing it. So inherently, it becomes a bit more condensed. So Disembodied was, I think, I would be open to say na Examination and Disembodied are actually very like two halves of like the same whole, because I think they're really coming from the same pool of emotions, which was that like I felt it was like it was this awareness of suddenly just being an object, right? So parang I lost that kind of innocence of like, oh, I can just trust anyone. Oh, I can just expect other people to be kind to me, blah, 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 blah. And Disembodied like made me realize na, oh, my place in this world as a woman can sometimes be, for other people, it's really just a body. I'm really just a body. to them. It was really kind of processing that resentment of parang yung train niya kasi coming from examination was really, if I didn't have this body, would that have happened to me? Would that pain that happened in examination have happened to me? Like, would I have been treated that way? It was almost kind of like wish fulfillment for me. Disembodied was really like, it starts off with a girl who is about to go through like a body removal surgery, right? And that was parang the rest of it is the wish fulfillment of parang the art of it was so therapeutic for me because it felt really good to destroy myself. Does that make sense? I know that like it for people, the visuals of it is really uncomfortable.
Yes.
But and I feel like oh I didn't know that, but like but it was really scratching an itch for me na hindi ko siya magawa in real life.
I love your, I can't think of a better word, I love your naivete with what the work, the impact of your art will be. You're like, oh, is it scary? You're like, oh, is it hard to look at? Like, other artists would be deliberate na, I'm gonna freak them out. Because you know how I do, that's how I do manananggal. I'm gonna scare them. But you are like, you're just opening up how your truth, kumbaga, in a way. But then, and I love the honesty of it. And, these are stories and these are works now. When you said kanina na you're worried about mga comic stuff, I thought you meant the content. But I feel like these are works that have to exist because otherwise, people who felt this way, they will not realize na it's not that it's correct, but that it really happens that you can feel these ways. Na they are probably super cliche, but they're probably not alone on the shit that they are going through. And it's so funny that you're like, oh, is that how it does for others?
Yeah, no, I feel really irresponsible for that, but I think and I really appreciate you kind of validating the existence of my work because especially like with your political comics and stuff and a lot of like talented artists now who are using their their skills to make like very very overt social
Relevant.
commentary. I'm so jealous of that, but I've always felt like I didn't have the authority to say it. So I only ever speak to what I experience. So I've always been like, nakakahiya na I'm here, making comics about my feelings, I got hurt, ganyan. Meanwhile, other people are making comics that are mobilizing people to act,
No.
inspiring them to think
No,
about like
listen.
society, ganyan.
Number one, some of these people telling people that they're mobilizing to act, they're not actually not acting. It's just design and clout. Number two, the personal will always be as important as the social. Finally, for Crybaby, tell me about this.
Crybaby is, I think, I'm just gonna like, reveal, like parang show you the curtain behind Oz, right? I did that in 24 hours. Kasi, kasi it was one of those nang inabukas sa pala yung comic.
I love it.
So I keep telling myself that next time it's not gonna be like that. But I think it was coming from that kind of shame that I felt na I'm so fixated on my emotions. Like I can't stop ruminating and like licking my wounds and crying about it. Like
may self-criticism na yung Crybaby, kumbaga. Like, it really is a journey, no? From examination. Examination is where something bad happened. Disembodied is like the aftermath of the pain, the violence. And then Crybaby is now looking back and parang the struggle continues, but this time there's more self-awareness to it. Do you agree?
Yeah. It was more of a reconciliation of parang you have been in pain since you did examination. Is that okay? And then bigla na lang I go all the way back. Actually, you've been in pain you've been crying about stuff since, like you were this young, and then unto this old. I don't think it really resolves itself, but it's that it's still a journey, like of trying to figure out like how much can I indulge myself in kind of sitting in that pain. Right?
I'm so happy that we got to talk like this in a way na you approach art really differently from everyone else so far. So it's super cool. That's a super cool thing for of you. Second to the last segment is recommend me shit.
I would like to recommend a video game. I would
Oh,
like to recommend, it's called What Remains of Edith Finch. It's on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch. So if you have any of those things, you can play it. Basically, what I really like, and even if you're not good at video games, like you can play it. And what I love about it is the storytelling um, is so good in such a way that it uses the medium of a video game to tell very like chilling stories, because I feel like we're limited to us, right? Like we're all limited to our panels, to our pages, and to our text, to our speech bubbles, and constantly, I don't know if, like, I'm sure you're doing this also, like we're trying to see how can I do something new, how can I do something fun with the materials that I have. And Edith Finch, although it is a video game, does that, where it's actually you just going through a house, and you're exploring it tells the story of parang this family that has like a curse, like lahat sila died ironic deaths.
you know what? I'm never into games, but the way you describe it, I feel like this is something I'll be so fucking into.
And it's only like 2 hours long. So if you're like, tangina, ayoko yun, at least you only wasted 2 hours.
What's the name again?
What Remains of Edith Finch?
Okay.
Yeah.
Last segment. This is a question that I ask all of our guests,
Yeah.
referring to the title. Jamie, what makes good art and what makes a bad artist?
I do have like kind of rubrics for myself as like, am I making good art or am I making bad art? So what I consider to be good art, like when I feel like I'm heading in the right direction, is if it is done out of sincerity and if it is done with earnestness. Yung alam mong someone was not necessarily happy, not happy in a haha cheerful kind of way, but like they saw it as a valuable thing to make something, parang wag, like I like a good art is sincere and was done in earnestness instead of parang done out of a feeling of um kailangan ko kasi mag-update ng Instagram or
Oh,
ay kailangan ko kasi gumawa ng fan art kasi para makakuha naman ako ng likes. So yun, so for me, as long as it's coming from a very real place, as long as you're sharing something because you want to share it, or it's something that you are sharing that is a real part of yourself, I think that is good art. For me, what makes bad art or a bad artist, I guess, is, and it's something that I've been very critical of myself ever since that time that I made my office mate cry. Sorry, AJ. Um, is that I think bad art is art that is manipulative or is careless in what it does. Like you kind of have to realize the power of your own creation, and parang hindi lang dapat to myself, hindi lang ako dapat labas lang ng labas ng stuff without thinking about how it might hurt other people. Not necessarily to self-censor, but like out of like a very human
it's like
consideration, like, right?
it's like with your words. You don't say everything that comes to your mind, di ba? And it's
Yeah.
the same with art na hindi siya exception na oh, it's art, so it's okay to do what I want, to draw
Mm-mm.
what I want. Parang,
Mm-mm.
yeah, the responsibility is there.